Today we're sitting down with Dr. David Esposito. He's a native of Milford, Connecticut, graduated from Foran High School, then Yale University with a degree in chemistry, received medical training at Duke University School of Medicine in Durham, North Carolina, completed a surgery residency in Cook County Hospital in Chicago, then came back to Connecticut, earned a master's degree in business from Yale, MBA. He's one of only about 130 surgeons in the U.S. to be board certified in general surgery, vascular surgery, and cardiothoracic surgery. That was a tough word to get out.
Yeah. Pretty close.
Well, I am excited to have you here today.
Glad to be here.
Doc,
where am I supposed to be looking?
No, you can look at me. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll edit this whole thing. Don't worry about that. Yeah. I mean, if you want to pop over the camera every so often, like if you have something important to say to Susie or somebody, you can just aim in there.
I don't want my profile.
You were originally sitting here, but you told us the good side of your face was, over there. So we had to.
Well, with the map of Italy on your face, there's no good side.
I love it. Doc is joining us fresh off of a Las Vegas trip for the F1 racing. You said it was a blast.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. Yeah. Once in a lifetime. I go to Vegas a lot.
Yeah.
And this was an unbelievable experience for that Formula One. Something I don't think anybody could imagine unless you were there.
I love it. That is awesome. It sounded like a fun trip. Today, we're going to be covering a ton of things. I really want to sit down. I get a lot of parallels to you and my dad about how you think about life. And you guys are best friends, but how you think about doing what you want with your own time, what's important. And I think those are some things I want to touch on. You growing up, schooling, experiences you have through work, and people you've met, overcoming some adversity, and then touch a little bit about some things you're doing today in the community, coaching, wrestling, as I know is a big part of your life. So we're going to dive right into it.
Sounds good. Yeah.
You grew up the oldest of three, right?
Yes. Yeah. I have two younger sisters, Julie and Geraldine. We all still live in Milford. My parents still live in Milford, so we're all kind of right in the same area that we grew up.
Awesome. And mom and dad meet in Stamford?
Yeah. So they grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and they met there in high school, and they've been together ever since.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your mom's been a nurse. Is she still working or no?
She's retired now. Yeah, my mom was a nurse for 40 years. She worked at Milford Hospital, which is a hospital in our town. She was an operating room nurse, and when she finished her career, she was the head of the operating room, administrating for the operating room. And so she was in the medical field, really the only person in our family who was involved in medicine, but obviously she had a lot of influence on me.
That is awesome. And your dad was a salesman, had a couple of his own businesses, right?
Yeah, so he started out, he started out working for Perkin-Elmer, and then he left there, and him and his brothers started a sporting goods stores. They had a couple of them, Stanford and Wilton, I think, and then he went into he became a salesman selling for basically licensed products, representing companies and selling them. So he was kind of involved in his own business, maybe you'd call an early entrepreneur in his own way. He kind of set his own tone for the things that he did.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you grow up in Milford. You go to all public school and you go to Foran, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Play any sports at Foran?
Yeah, so at Foran I played football, I wrestled, and then I played baseball.
Three sport athlete.
I did, yeah. And I was little. I was very little. I was probably 100 pounds, but I was a little quarterback, and I kind of fell into wrestling because I played, basketball growing up like everybody else. Mm-hmm. But, when you're 100 pounds, 4'10", you don't have much of a career in basketball, but so I came to wrestling because, they're like, hey, we need a little guy. And so I wrestled. I fell in love with wrestling, and that kind of changed my life almost. And then baseball was my real sport.
Yeah.
But again, I was always little, which I think kind of put a little chip on my shoulder. Everybody always told me I was too little to play quarterback, too little to play baseball, So I kind of always had a little chip on my shoulder from being little.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm kind of glad, you know, when you're in it, you know, you're like, oh, why couldn't I be 6 foot tall,
Yeah.
you know? But I think looking back, that really kind of shaped me to who I am. You know?
I usually like to, when I do an interview, go over, you know, chronologically and then come back to certain points. But I want to pop in before we get in is growing up, Ernie Pepe.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about
man. How do you know Ernie Pepe?
You told me about him.
He was the best. So he was one of my first coaches in football. Ernie just passed away. And he...
Packers,
you know,
right?
Yeah, the Packers. So when I was growing up in Milford, each grammar school had its own football team.
Yep.
So when you were 10, it was from 10 years old to 12 years old, tackle football team. And so you would play against, you know, there's 8 or 9 teams in Milford. You'd play against each other, and it was pretty intense. And we were the Packers, the D'Amato brothers Packers from my side of town. And we were the best team. We had a little dynasty there.
Wait, how old are you at the time?
10.
And how tall are you and how much do you weigh?
Oh, I'm probably 65 pounds. I'm probably 4'6", you know. So Coach Pepe was our coach, and again, he had won many championships in a row. He was a very, you know, well-respected coach, tough, and so I went out to play as a 10-year-old. I was a little quarterback, and I was a tough little kid, but I was little, and you know, there's weight limit in this.
Yeah.
So not only an upper weight limit, but a lower weight limit. And I wasn't even close to the lower weight limit. And so so they told me I couldn't play. So the league told me I couldn't play. And Coach Pepe said, well, hold on. So Coach Pepe went to the commissioner of the league, and he said, you come down to one of our practices and you watch this kid play football.
Yeah.
And if you tell me that he's too small to play, then that's fine. And so they let me play, you know, and I think, you know, looking back, I think that was one of the most important things that ever happened to me in my life because, you know, to have someone you don't really know step up and you know, look out for you.
Yep.
And it kind of taught me that, you know, you can really do anything. And you don't have to take what people say, you know what I mean? You don't have to take everything as, oh, you know, that's the way it is. It empowered me, you know, to say I could do anything I want. I don't care what people say. They say I can't do it, I'll do it, you know?
Yep.
And I'll never forget that. I think that changed my life, you know, and I was blessed enough to kind of be able to reconnect with Coach Pepe when I came back to Milford. I was able to coach his grandson in wrestling. My kids played football for Coach Pepe.
Yep.
And, you know, until the day he died, we were very, very good friends. And, you know, I think he's touched a lot of people in Milford, but, you know, but me in particular, I can tell you that he's one of the most important people in my life, you know? So it's, you know, you hear a lot about growing up, oh, you know, you could change somebody's life, and you kind of poo-poo it a little bit sometimes, but I can tell you that there are people who've changed my life without trying to, but just by doing some of these things, you know, you can really point kids in the right direction. And I think that's what kind of inspired me to coach and do some of the things that I do now is because I believe it. I believe that maybe you could save somebody or change somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
So you're at Foran High School.
Foran High School. Yeah, that's the school I went to. Yeah.
Well, now you're coaching there too.
Yeah.
How's Yale? Is that the number one school you were trying to get into?
Yeah, so it's really the only school. You know, when my mother, you know, always said, you know, when I was...
By the way, before I preface this, at Mill River, you were considered, I think, the smartest guy. For the people that are going to watch
this. That's not saying much. I mean, come on.
That is
right? Right. I mean, so let's take this with a grain of salt here. But
well, looks might be deceiving. People are like, who's this guy with all these degrees?
Yeah,
you
know? Billy Neary says I'm the auto mechanic of the thing. But yeah, so... I forgot what we were saying.
Yale. So how do you end up deciding going there?
Yeah. So when I was a kid in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher who who again I reconnected with later. She always told this story to her friends or anybody who would listen. And I was in kindergarten, and you have these little booklets that say, when I grow up, I want to be a fireman or whatever.
Yep.
And so when I was 5 years old, my little book said, when I grow up, I want to go to Yale and be a heart surgeon. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do in my life. I don't know why. I don't know why I wanted to be a heart surgeon, but it's the only thing I ever wanted to do. And I only wanted to go to Yale, and that's the only school I applied to. And I got in there, and I went there. So that was, me. I just, it was that place or no place.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
tell us your time at Yale, because you were involved with the school.
Yeah.
Played baseball there.
Yeah. I was a baseball player.
Captain of the team.
Yeah, I ended up being captain of the team. And again, I was not recruited to play there. Nobody knew me there. I just kind of showed up one day and said, "Where's practice?" And
Yeah.
I was lucky enough. When I look at my life, I look at how many lucky, breaks I had. I was just kind of stupid, and I'm like, all right, I'll just show up for the first day of practice. It was fall, freshman year. I see the guys playing. I'm like, all right, I'm here. I'm joining the team. And I think more than anything else, they were just like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, who can't, let them play or whatever. And I just kind of stuck around,
Yep.
and I wasn't a good baseball player, but I was a hard worker and a hustler. You know what I mean? So they liked having me around because I would pitch batting practice.
Yep.
I'd go before practice, after practice, I'd work, I'd be in a weight room. So they liked having me around. They never expected me to play, but they kept me around or whatever. And, and then I just kind of, eventually I earned the respect of my teammates. They voted me captain. I think to this day, that's probably the greatest accomplishment of my life. At Yale, every sport at Yale, they have one captain. There's one captain only. The football team has one captain. The baseball team, one captain. It's always one captain, and the captain's chosen by your peers. And, when you're at Yale, you can imagine who your peers are.
Yeah.
Right? Every kid there was the captain of their high school team and the valedictorian of their high school and national honor. You know what I mean? So it's not like when you're in high school, all right, yeah, of course Esposito's the captain. He's the only one who could read and write. You know what I mean? So to be elected captain from that crew was an unbelievable accomplishment, and it's something I'm probably the most proud of in all my accomplishments is that being captain of the Yale baseball team. And again, it wasn't because I was a good player. I was not a good player, but I was a good leader and a grinder and a good teammate, and so that was a great experience. Doing that at Yale, and so. I think as I look back on it, there are things I wish I could have done differently, but I think that it all worked out pretty good,
Do you still keep in touch with your baseball teammates from Yale?
Yeah, so my best friend, Kevin Green, was my baseball player. He's still one of my best friends. He plays in Mill River with us now.
Yep.
So again, those are my fraternity brothers from Yale, my baseball. Those are the guys that I'm still friends with.
Yeah, we'll come back to Greeny. I'm sure there's some good stories.
You should have Greeny here just to talk about the stories. Nobody could tell stories like him.
Oh, man. So Yale, you leave, you go to Duke Med School. How do you land at Duke?
So I knew my plan was always to come home. I always wanted to come back to Milford. I wanted to be a doctor in Milford. That was always my plan. So I said, I went to college 8 minutes from my house. I don't want to be one of these people that never leave. Never leave. I think that really puts you in a small box. So I said I got to get out and I got to go different places, meet different people, and this way when I come back, at least I bring some different experiences back. So I just said, where could I go? I don't know. The South sounds nice, and Duke is a great school, so I'll go there. So that's kind of why I picked it, just because it was somewhere nice, the nice climate, and it was a good school. So,
did you enjoy your time there?
I did. Yeah, I made some good friends there. Very good friends. Had a great time there. Got a good education. I met my first wife there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was good. Yeah.
Awesome. Leaving Duke, you go to Chicago.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting is, why did you pick Chicago? Because you mentioned something to me about the best surgeons were in the war.
Yeah. So when I was at Duke, Duke is one of the greatest surgical hospitals.
What'd you go to
America.
Duke for? What'd you study, by the way?
So in medical school, you don't really study. Everybody kind of gets the
General?
same experience. Okay. You learn everything in med school, and then at the end of med school, you kind of decide what you're going to focus on. But Duke is known for its surgical program. David Sabston was the chief of surgery there. He literally wrote the textbook of surgery. Okay. So I was surrounded by amazing surgeons there. That's who was teaching me. And what I realized when talking to them and going is that they all had something in common. All those great surgeons were war surgeons. They were either in Vietnam or Korea. That's where they made their chops, Yeah. They learned how to think on their feet, invent. I mean, a lot of surgery is invented in wars. It's why you learn how you can do something, because you try it in a war and you say, this works, and then you bring it back to civilian life, So that's where a lot of innovation in medicine happens in wars. And in the 90s, 1990, when I was there, 92 or 90 to 94, there was no war. It was full peacetime, and there was no even thought of war, know? And so I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to be great? How am I going to be great? I'll never be great because I can't have these experiences that these guys have had. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, there are wars going on. The wars are in the cities, right? The cities of America have wars going on every day.
Yep.
And so I said, all right, well, what's the best place to go? And the best place to go is Cook County Hospital in Chicago. It's the first and best trauma center in America, in the world, probably. Busiest trauma center in the world. And so I said, that's where I got to go to learn how to be a surgeon. So that's where I went. And I loved Chicago, but I went there to work at Cook County Hospital.
What was your experience like there?
Amazing. Amazing. So, when you work there, I was at Rush St. Luke's, which was across the street, a private hospital across the street, and then Cook County. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, but an amazing experience. I mean, you're basically running the hospital as residents. You're seeing 30, 40 gunshot wounds a day there. You're really learning how to manage and lead and act on your feet. And so I had a lot of amazing opportunities there. And I loved being in Chicago. I had 2 kids. My first two sons were born in Chicago. So I loved my time there. I still love Chicago. The Chicago winter is unbearable, so I don't miss the winter of Chicago. I mean, here in Connecticut, we think winter's bad. It's not. I mean, Chicago is the worst. But the summer in Chicago, there's no place better to be probably in the world than summer in Chicago. It's the best place on earth.
How often do you go back?
Not that often. I took my kids there once a year maybe, but now I have a daughter that lives there. Yeah. So we go back there more.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
We got dinner out there. Me, Susie, Sarah, and Vito.
Yeah, I know. Without me, I was stuck here. Yeah.
You always say about wanting to be the best, and it sounds like getting your at-bats in was important. So that's why you ended up in Chicago, right? That was one of the main reasons.
Yeah.
And it worked out?
I mean, I think so. Yeah. I mean, after Chicago, then I had to do more training. I went to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep.
And that's where I trained. Again, this is how life kind of throws you curveballs, and you don't know it at the time how lucky you are. So I went to Carolina's Medical Center in Charlotte to be to train to be a heart surgeon. And I wanted to go to Charlotte because my wife at the time was from Charlotte. And so I figured if I'm going to be there for 3 years working 140 hours a week, it'd be nice for my wife to be near her family to raise our 2 kids and be around when I'm not going to be around. So that's why I chose Charlotte solely for that. They just so happen to have the only program in America where you would get trained in heart surgery and vascular surgery. So they had 2 fellowship trainings together. It's the only place that still had them that way. So I didn't really want to do vascular surgery, but it was part of the deal. It was 3 years.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right. And so that's kind of how I ended up being board certified in heart surgery, vascular surgery, and general surgery. It was kind of by accident. And fast forward 20 years, I do probably 80 to 90% of what I do is vascular surgery.
No way.
Yeah. So, and vascular surgery is a rising field, whereas cardiac surgery is a dying field. So again, I just got so lucky in doing that because it basically changed the course of my career. It made my life so much better being a vascular surgeon, being trained in vascular surgery.
Yeah. Do you want to give the listeners a definition of vascular?
Yeah.
And I say listeners, and it's really me. I have no idea.
Yeah. So I'm a cardiothoracic surgery.
Yep.
Cardio means heart.
Yep.
Thoracic means chest.
Mm-hmm.
So anything in the chest. So that's the heart, the lungs, and the esophagus, which is the tube that connects your heart and your stomach. So that's thoracic surgery.
Yep.
So taking lungs out for cancer. And this is surgery. So a lot of people say, oh, you're a cardiologist. I am not a cardiologist. Cardiologists are actually the enemy of cardiac surgeons. But I'm not a cardiologist. Cardiologists give you blood pressure medicines. They check your blood pressure.
No surgeries.
They do catheterizations, to see if you got blockages. They're trying to prevent disease.
Yeah.
I'm not in disease prevention, okay? I'm in fixing. By the time you get to me, you've tried all those things. They haven't worked. Now we cut you open with knives and things, okay? So I'm a cardiac thoracic surgeon. And vascular. Vascular is basically the blood vessels of the body.
Yep.
The arteries and the veins of the body from your head to your toes. So it could be your aorta, your carotid artery, your arteries in your legs, your veins, your varicose veins. So any blood vessel in the body. So that's kind of what I do. And like I said, what's happened over time is that heart surgery is kind of dying because you can do so much more now with cardiac catheterizations, with stents. Now there are valves that you can put in through the groin. So there's a lot of things now you can do before you have to have open heart surgery. Whereas vascular surgery is really taking off. So that's why kind of I now do almost a lot of vascular surgery, much more than anything else.
That is crazy. So you go to Charlotte to be a heart surgeon, but end up just stumbling into this, and now it's most of your business.
Yeah. Again, it's just you look back at your life and you say, wow, what amazing breaks I got, And if you don't believe in God, then I don't know how you would explain it. If you didn't believe in God, I don't know how you'd explain how your life ends up the way it does.
Yeah.
Because it's just somebody has to be out there guiding you because there's no way it could happen by chance,
I just had the conversation the other day, like coincidences. I don't believe in them. I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sad. I guess there could be coincidences, but if that's what you believe in, I think that's pretty sad.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty sad if life was only us just walking around and things happening by chance. I think that would be pretty damn boring and pretty unsatisfying.
The stories aren't that great either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So before Charlotte, you come back home to Milford, right? And I want to talk about opening up your own practice, coming back and doing things different. Because when you go back to Duke, you're an underachiever, you've told me. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So, I always joke, when I go back to my med school reunions, everybody in Milford thinks I'm, great, SC's great. When I go back to Duke, they all shake their head at me. And I say I'm always voted the most underachieving graduate of Duke University because here I have all these credentials, Yale, Duke, Cook County, triple board certification.
Yep.
Where would you think a guy like that would be? Well, he should be the chairman of the Mayo Clinic or Mass General or Yale University. And what is he doing? He's got a little practice in Milford. He works at Milford Hospital, which has 35 beds. What's he doing? You know what I mean? So, so I think it's all about perspective, you know. How do you define success?
We're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
Because that is the reason why I'm so excited to have you on. But let's talk about adversity.
Yeah.
You had a couple years where it was, I think in Yale, because you're now, 35 years sober?
Yeah, almost 1992.
1992.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what that period looked like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not embarrassed by it. I mean, again, I think that your life is your life. You know what I mean? Your experiences are what make you who you are. You know, and the good ones and the bad ones. You know, and I had kind of a very highly concentrated time of debauchery in my life. I never had a drink of alcohol in high school.
Yep.
I went to college, and basically probably from my freshman year of college through my second year of medical school, probably a day didn't go by when I didn't have alcohol.
Yep.
So I had 6 years of pretty much constant alcohol abuse. And it was fun. And again, there's a lot of great stories about me. You ask anybody around, there's a lot of great stories about me. But I had a lot of bad things happen to me because of that. I probably lost a lot of friends because of that. But I was able to put that behind me and move on, and I think I'm pretty proud of that.
Yep.
And again, I'm not sorry about it. It's who I am. But it's another way when I look back and you hear the stories about the things I did. I mean, it's a miracle that
You're still alive.
Through. Yeah, that I'm alive, that I was able to
graduate,
that I was able to accomplish the things I did. It's just, if you don't believe in God, then I don't know how you can explain it, because it's really, pretty amazing.
I love how I don't know if you said this when we last met. You said you don't have any regrets. You did say today your experiences are what make you who you are today. And if you didn't do that, you'd be different today, or things would have changed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, it taught me things of what I can do, what I can't do, and I think the sooner you learn those things, the better off you're going to be. You concentrate your focus on the things that you can accomplish, and okay, here are my limits, and here's where I am limitless.
Yep. Before we move on from that, you want to share the story about the wedding in Nashville?
Yeah, my poor friends. I went to Nashville. So that was the last drink I ever had. I went to Nashville for a friend of mine's, one of my very best friends' weddings from college, and went to the wedding. It was at Andrew Jackson's home in Nashville, and obviously I was drunk. During the wedding, I was on stage singing. I literally ruined the wedding. But then as we're walking out, there was all these, this is a national monument. There's all these tiki torches lining the road out. And so I proceeded to knock everyone over, and the gas and the oil and everything spread on the grass. So now the grass is up in flames, like this place is going to burn down. And I don't remember any of it really. They all but the next morning, I'm with my friends. They got, bandages on because they got burns on their arms, and they're all and I'm like, what the hell happened? They told me what happened, and I haven't had a drink since that day. It was I guess I'm lucky. Andrew Johnson's home is still there. So people tell me how great Nashville is now. I said they should thank me that I didn't burn it down 30 years ago.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
So you finish up at Charlotte, you come back to Connecticut.
Yeah.
You decide to open up your own practice.
Yeah, so I kind of was naive. I was naive my whole life because I said, I'll just come back to home to practice.
Yep.
Never thinking, where are you going to practice, right? So it comes time for me to come back home. I'm done with my training, and I'm like, all right, so what do you do? And they're like, you got to find a group to hire you so that you can start practicing, So I come back to Milford to Connecticut, and I'm asking around. And at that time, there was only two hospitals where basically two systems where heart surgery was being done, New Haven and Hartford.
Yep.
And so there weren't a lot of heart surgeons in Connecticut. And so I went to the group in New Haven, and they're very nice. And I had known one of the surgeons very well because of my mother. And he was like, listen, there's not only are there no spaces, but heart surgery is kind of on the decline. We're not looking to hire somebody because we don't think there's going to be enough work. So now I'm basically like, all right, I have two options. I have to either go somewhere else.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I could go to other places. I have great credentials. I could get hired anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Or I got to come here anyway, you know? And so I just wasn't willing to let my dream die. You know, I wasn't willing to go to Idaho and make a lot of money and be a heart surgeon there. So I said, I'm going to come home and I'm just going to open my own practice, which is pretty much probably had never been done before and probably will never be done since, to open your own practice as a heart surgeon, you know, because one, you need referrals, and who the hell is going to send you your first heart surgery, right? I mean, it's not like all right, throw the kid a bone, let him take an appendix out, right? This is heart surgery you're talking about. And two, because you don't have any help. You know, like normally you're starting out, even though you're trained to do it, when you first do it on your own, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to have somebody to help you if you get in trouble or help you out, you know what I mean? So that's why I think it was ridiculous to do what I did. Ridiculous. Probably, you know, unsafe.
Yeah,
irresponsible. Yeah, irresponsible maybe, but whatever, I did it. So I opened my own practice, and you know, it was a struggle in the beginning, but in the end, you know, now I've grown that practice to be pretty large, and it's wonderful because I'm one of the few people now in the state who's independent. You know, almost everybody else either works for Yale or Harvard system, whereas me, I have my own practice. I can do whatever I want. I don't have any boss, and I probably make more money than they do working. You know, so I think it all worked out great in the end. But again, you get a little lucky. Yeah, you know. So
your first client.
Yeah. So I hope he doesn't. You know, I hope he doesn't mind mentioning him. But you know, again, it's when you think about life and people that are important in your life. And
by the way, this is an honor mentioning him too, because it helped you so much. We don't have to give his name. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So his name was Ted Goodwin. Yeah. I'm sure he wouldn't care when I mention him. But Teddy was the vice president of Milford Bank. He was head of the mortgage department there at Milford Bank, and a legend in town. Everyone know Ted Goodwin, and he was in a Rotary Club, everything. Very, very well-known man in Connecticut, in Milford. And so he needed to have heart surgery. He didn't really even know me that well at this time. He knew who I was, but he didn't really. And his cardiologist said, okay, you need heart surgery. Here's who I'm going to send it to. And he said, no, I want to go see Dr. Esposito. And his cardiologist said, no, you can't go see him. He's brand new. I don't even know this guy. He doesn't have any experience. You know, this is you have to go to we have the best heart surgeons in the world, which they did. Yeah. In St. Raphael's. And he refused. He said, he's new, he's young, that's what I want. He's going to be out there, go get him. He's going to have cutting edge knowledge. That's what I want. And so he came to me, and I'll never forget talking to him with his son there, and his son basically shaking his head like, I can't believe you're going to do this. Yeah. And he chose me to do his surgery, and I did it, and it was successful. And I really think that was what made my career, is because he had faith in me for no reason. Yeah. He just had faith in me for some reason. And because of that faith, people saw me, and the cardiologist saw me, and people, you know, so they started to have confidence in me and send me patients and things like that. So I think that if it wasn't for him, I probably would have had a short stay in town. And if I would have screwed up his surgery, I would have had a real short stay in town. But again, God blessed me, and I was able to get him through that, and he's still alive today. And and again, the rest is history. But that was another good piece of luck where God just put somebody in my life where, it kind of made my career. Yeah. So
the fork in the road, you finish up in Charlotte, you could come back, you go work for Hartford or Yale or start your own practice. and your life is vastly different than somebody that's a surgeon at one of those hospitals where they're have a boss, they have to clock in and out, kind of, you know.
Okay.
One of the things I love is you say what you focus on in life and knowing what you want in life. You want to talk about that and why you've made the decisions you have?
Yeah.
Because it started almost with your dad back in the day because he taught you some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, my dad taught me things without really trying to teach them. You know, I think my dad is probably like your dad.
Yeah.
You know, I can't remember having a conversation with my dad that lasted more than 3 sentences. You know, but my dad has taught me so much.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that I learned from him was, again, when he got out of college, he was working at Perkin-Elmer, right? Perkin-Elmer was at the cutting edge of computers. This is in the 1960s, right?
Yep.
They were starting to build computers, okay? So imagine what your life would be like now if you were at the cutting edge of the company that designed computers, right? Imagine how many, forget millions, how many billions of dollars you might have if you stayed, right? But will that make you happy, right? You know? And, you know, my father gave that up. And again, I don't know if he was foreseeing it, you know, but he, rather than stay in that, which he didn't enjoy, he decided to get with his brothers and do a sporting good business, something he knew about. He loved sports, you know, something that gave him the freedom to be his own boss, to watch his kids grow up, to coach his kids, right? So that's what I saw growing up. As a guy who put his family first, you know, and that's what I want to do. And so, you know, I tell people all the time, life is pretty easy. You just have to be honest. You just have to make what are your priorities, and then you have to stick to that, right? Everybody you ask says, my family's my priority, right? But then the decisions that they make counteract that, right? And so for me in my life, I've always been able to set my priorities and make decisions based on those priorities, you know, and you know, a lot of people say, you know, basically you can tell from this thing, you know, heart surgery was my passion, right? It's the only thing I ever wanted to do with my life, right? Well, 5 years into it, or maybe even less, 4 or 5 years into it, I realized that these two things are incompatible, right? Being a heart surgeon and being a good father are incompatible almost, right? Because it's too hard being a heart surgeon. There's too many hours, right? I get called in the middle of the night. I got to go. You know, Dante's got a baseball game. Beep. Oh, got to go, Dante. Got to go do surgery, right?
Did that ever happen?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So you miss out on everything, you know? And so I had to make a decision what to do. And to me, it was a very easy decision, right?
Yeah.
Because on my list of priorities, my family had taken over heart surgery, right? I mean, when before heart surgery was here, everything else was here. Well, then I had a family now that takes over heart surgery. So when I had to make a choice, heart surgery or family, it was very easy for me. Right? And so people say, do you miss it? I miss it all the time. But I made the right decision. So basically about 4 or 5 years into it, I decided I wasn't going to do heart surgery anymore. I was just going to do lung surgery, thoracic surgery, and vascular surgery, and leave the heart surgery to everybody else, you know? And again, I never looked back from that. And it was, again, it was an easy decision. It was the right decision because I've been able to be involved in my kids' lives in every way imaginable, you know?
Wow. So you still aren't doing heart surgery?
No.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So open heart surgery, I haven't done it for probably 10, 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because it's a drop of the moment kind of surgery.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I think that's, people might have had that decision and it might have took them a year to make that decision.
Yeah.
Or they're, making lists pros and cons and beating themselves up. For me, it was easy, right? Because I have these lists in my brain, and so when things come up, it's very easy for me to make decisions because I just make them based on that list that I have, And so, I think that's what people miss a lot of times is they think they have to, sacrifice one for the other. I think you can have everything you want.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to put them in the list of the order of the things that you want.
Yeah. So your 3 boys, Dante, Gino, Nico.
Mm-hmm.
Dante's in Columbia, South Carolina, right?
Yeah, he's a prosecuting attorney for a district in Columbia, South Carolina. Yeah.
Awesome. And they all wrestled, right? All 3 of them, or no?
So they all wrestled when they were young.
Yes.
My son Gino was the wrestler.
The middle, yeah. He was at Foran.
Was a wrestler. He was a real wrestler.
Then UNC for wrestling.
Yeah.
And
now,
he
was a state champ. He was a high school state champion in wrestling, and he wrestled Division I at University of North Carolina. He was a 4-year captain at University of North Carolina. So he was a real. I mean, I was not. I was a. Joke
run of the mill.
Yeah. I mean, this is when you talk about Division I wrestlers; those are men.
Yeah.
He was.
And
so that's him.
He right now is he's in the priesthood, or that is awesome.
Yeah, it's he's a pretty amazing kid.
Yep.
He was a straight A student, salutatorian of his high school. He was straight A's, a scholar he got a degree in business. He got a master's degree in accounting, and now he's going to be a Catholic priest.
Awesome.
So he's in the seminary in Oregon and studying to be a priest. So it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
And Nico, what's he up to?
And so my son Nico, he's the youngest. He's at High Point University. He's in his 3rd year. Awesome. He's probably going to go into education. I think so.
Awesome.
And then I've
got the Brady bunch.
Yeah, so I have a second family. My second wife, Suzanne, my current wife.
Yep.
And she has 4 children who basically become my children, and our children are very close. So we have one family, really. Yeah. I don't distinguish between my kids and her kids. They're all our kids.
I love it.
So she's got Ashley, who's the oldest, and she works for me. Actually, she's my office manager, my practice manager, and then Patrick, her son, works for Southeastern University in Tampa, Florida.
Yep.
And then Sarah is in Chicago in school at DePaul, and then Tim is a paramedic. He lives with us still. So I got a whole crew.
You got a whole crew.
And
Ashley's got a...
Yeah, so Ashley is the loves of my life. Thomas, my grandson, who's 7, is the joy of my life. And then she just had a baby, Charlotte. And then Patrick and Grace are having a baby in April. So I'll have 3 grandkids in the next few months.
Unreal.
So, yeah.
Pat got married last year, right?
Pat got married last year.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And anybody, you always hear people say that, grandkids are better than kids. Well, I have 7 kids. I would trade all 7 of those kids in a second for Thomas or Charlotte, any of them. I mean, it's not even close how much better grandkids are than kids.
That is so funny.
The best. Yeah, it's the best.
My dad and mom are going through that now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you gave the gift to Dario.
It's the best. It's everyone says it, but until you experience it, you can't imagine that you could love somebody more than you loved your kids.
Yeah.
But you get all the good stuff and none of the bad stuff. It's like the perfect world. So
that is so funny.
Yeah,
so did everybody? When you guys met in 2015? I mean, you and Susan met in.
Yeah, so me and Sue
school.
Actually grew up together. So we were in the same town. We grew up together. We went to school together. Went to high school together. Her mom was the mayor of Milford for 8 years while we were in high school. Yep. So Sue will always tell the story that she beat me for class president our freshman year of high school. We both ran for class president. She won. I lost.
So funny.
So she always says that. What she doesn't say is that sophomore, junior, senior year, I won and she lost. But she did beat me. The only election I ever lost, she beat me. But yeah, then we kind of went our separate ways. She got married, I got married. But then back in, I don't know when it was, 2015, somewhere around there. Yeah. We reconnected. We were both going through a divorce and we reconnected and the rest is history.
That is so funny.
Yeah, so it's good.
I wrote down a note about Nico at High Point because we talked about High Point and you love it there.
Yeah.
He the president you said you love. Why is that?
Yeah, he's one of my idols. Nico Kaiban. He is. You Google him and watch him.
Do you know his name?
Nico I don't know how to spell it. Kaiban.
Yep.
Nido. Nido Kaiban.
Different than your son, Nico. Yeah.
Nido.
Yeah.
He's I think Lebanese immigrant who basically came to America with no money and made himself, was an entrepreneur and made himself a lot of money. And now he's the president of High Point. He's basically taken that school in 20 years from a nothing to if you go down there and see it, it's amazing, amazing place.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But, and the facilities are wonderful, but it's really his thought, his mission to me is that, they talk about being a life skills to teach life to these kids.
And not algebra.
Yeah. Like teaching things that are going to be successful, how to communicate, how to talk to people, and he's very much in love with the United States of America. He talks about how it's made him success, and he doesn't apologize for the United States of America. He doesn't apologize for the American flag. He has it up there in front of him. And, he doesn't apologize to people who want to be rich and successful, right? He encourages that, whereas most universities, including my university, would shame you for thinking, to want to be an entrepreneur, or be a capitalist, or make a lot of money, or be successful. Why would you want to be successful when there are people who can't be successful?
Yeah.
But this place is not like that, High Point. They encourage you to be successful and to be great and to be extraordinary, and I think that's what, to me, I think that's what we need more of, is that. And I think that's really why I love coaching so much, and I think that's why it struck, I listen to this guy talk, I have tears in my eyes, because it's so nice to hear people talking about this stuff, this day and age, and being, standing up and being proud to say, we're proud of America and we believe in God and we believe in family,
Yeah.
It's nice to hear people say that and not be afraid of what other people are going to say.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. If you ever listen to this guy talk, it's mesmerizing. I remember on Parents' Weekend, he talked for like an hour and a half, he talked. And I was sitting there on the edge of my seat, crying, laughing. I'm like, oh my God, my son is like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's a great place. Yeah. It's a cool place, High Point. But again, I think that's the five. I mean, and I think that's what I love most about coaching, and I don't know what you want to talk about, but
I've got it on the list.
yeah, I love coaching high school.
Let's talk about the story. It's you and your buddy Luth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how do you
end up being the coach at Foran High School? Give us what's going on with the program.
So it's kind of a funny story, cool story. So again, I was a baseball player, right?
Yep.
But when I came back to town, 2002, my kids are starting to be 5, 6 years old, and so I want to get them into stuff. And obviously, I loved wrestling. I thought it taught me a lot of great lessons. So I said, all right, I'd get my kid in wrestling. And so there was a club in Milford called the Milford Indians, and it was run by a guy named Bill Coelho, who was a great man, great wrestler for Milford High. And so I brought my kids there to join the club, and just so happened, one of my best friends from high school, Noel Luth, we were captains together of the high school wrestling team when we were in school. He was there with his kids. And so we go through the program year after year, and our kids are, they're all participating, but his two sons and one of my son, Gino, were really, really into wrestling.
Yeah.
Like literally, like we would wrestle year round.
Yeah.
We would go all over the country wrestling.
Yeah.
And they were getting better and better and better and better, and again, I was just kind of watching, it happen. Bill Coelho ended up getting lung cancer and passing away. And so me and Noel took over that club to run that club because it was important. We wanted to keep it going in his name and for the kids that we had 50, 60, 70 kids in that program. Yeah. So they're getting on 6th grade, 7th grade. Again, we know these kids are good, And so we said, all right, let's go to a foreign match and see. So we go to a foreign high school wrestling match. and they had 5 kids on the team.
How many should be on a team?
14. You need 14 to compete, to have a full team. You should have, 20, 30 kids, right, to have JVs. But there are 14 weight classes. So to compete, you need 14. They had 5.
Wow.
So it means they were forfeiting 9 weight classes.
Can't win anything.
You can't win.
Yeah.
And, and so I went to the athletic director who also grew up. This is a theme, right? Everybody in Milford grew up together, stayed in Milford. So the athletic director, who I knew from growing up, I said, what's going on here? He's like, dude, this program is dying, and we're going to have to close the program down. There's no interest. There's no one to coach it. There's no kids want to do it. We're going to close the program. And I said, well, you can't close the program. I said, first of all, we got 50, 60 kids in this youth program. They got to have somewhere to wrestle. Yep. And my kid got to have somewhere to wrestle. And Noel's kid got to have somewhere to wrestle. So these kids are good. These are like elite kids. We need them to be able to wrestle here.
Yeah.
Because this is where they're coming to school. And he said, I don't know what to tell you. I said, all right, well, why don't I will pick your coach. I will help him. Mm-hmm. I'll be a volunteer assistant coach. I'll help him. I'll see what we could do. So that's what happened. And so one of the teachers, Frank Peters, came on as the coach. I was his assistant, and we started to slowly kind of build the program up just by beating the doors, going down the halls and getting people to come out and kind of hope it. And so again, at least we saved the program. And then Coach Peters ended up, he started having babies, and so he couldn't put the time in anymore. And so when he said, listen, I can't do it anymore. So I became the head coach, and he became the assistant coach.
Yeah.
So again, I was not really, even to this day, I probably know less about wrestling, literally the moves of wrestling than probably anybody else. But as I became the head coach, and then I brought Luth on to be my assistant coach, we've kind of created a real good thing there, and our kids ended up going there. Our kids ended up being state champions wrestling in high school. We've actually Foran High. We went from having 5 kids on the team to, in the last 7-8 years, we've won 2 state championships, and the other 6-7 years we've come in second. So we've been first or second in Connecticut for the last 8-9 years. So we have, probably, and we probably have one of the biggest teams. We probably have 60 kids on our team. So I'm proud of that. I'm not the state championships. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of. I'm proud of that fact that we have so many kids want to be involved in it, because the sport, if you've never wrestled, and it's one of the things I love about it. It is the most underappreciated, under the radar sport. There is almost no good logical reason to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
It is incredibly hard. Incredibly hard. Like a wrestling practice is 10 times harder than any other sporting effort you would make. Football, baseball, forget about it,
mm-hmm.
right? A 2-hour wrestling practice is like running a marathon, and there's no glory in it, right? You could be a 1-10 football team, and the whole student body comes to your game on Friday night.
Yep.
Right? We state champs, nobody knows about us, right? And that's what I love about it, right? Because it keeps you humble. It keeps the kids down to earth, because no matter how good you are, nobody cares.
Yeah.
The only people who care are your brothers and sisters that are on the mat with you and your coaches. They're the only people who care about you,
mm-hmm.
And so there's no egos. There's no... the people that do it, they do it because they love it, because they love the feeling they get from it. They're not joining a wrestling team so they can get girls.
Yeah.
Right? They're joining a wrestling team because they believe in something
mm-hmm.
that we're offering. And I think that is what I'm most proud of. Is that I can, have these kids for 4 years of their life and maybe teach them a little something. And not about wrestling.
Yeah. No, not much of wrestling at all.
Coach Luke does all the wrestling teach.
You told me once, you said there's value in hard work and sacrifice, which wrestling has those 2 things. And in those of itself, in those 2 things itself, those are the prize. There does not need to be a trophy at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think too often in our society we judge people on the results that they get
Yeah.
or on the place that they come in,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what I try and preach is that there is value in the process, right? There's value in hard work in and of itself, right? That that has value. That you don't work hard so you can get a result, right?
Mm-hmm.
The result is nice. You work hard because that's what you do. You work hard.
Yeah.
Because working hard gives you a feeling of worth.
Mm-hmm.
It has value. It it is the prize. The feeling you get after a 2-hour practice where you busted your ass and you kept going despite the fact that your body kept telling you to stop. Your brain kept telling you to stop, but you persevered. You went through it and you completed that practice. That is an accomplishment, right? In and of itself.
Yeah.
And if you get used to that and you have that mindset in life, you're going to be successful. Because if you approach everything that you do that I'm going to work hard at it, regardless of the outcome, regardless if anyone knows I'm working hard, if you do that, you're going to be successful, right? That's a value that people are going to see, you know? And I think that, in our society, what's happened, I think, is that we've devalued excellence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have lowered the expectation of our kids, of this generation. We've lowered expectations, right? We've basically said it's okay if you're not the best. It's okay if you're, if you don't, try. It's okay. We've basically gotten away from the fact to say be extraordinary, right? Be excellent. I'm not saying win, right? I never say win, right? I go through a whole season. I never, ever say the word win. I couldn't care less. There's nothing I need less in my life than another wrestling win on my resume, okay? I couldn't care less, all right? But I want them to be great. I want my kids to be great. I want them to be excellent. And I want them to have high expectations of themselves. I want them to have, I want there to be consequences to their actions. I want them to feel the pain of failure, right? I don't want to lessen that pain.
Yep.
I don't want to make it easy on them. Because I think those are the things that are going to make them great, right? Being great, being a champion is not about having a trophy, right? It's about the actions that take it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I preach, in wrestling, and I think that the results speak for themselves. Again, not the wins and loss results, but the fact that we have 50, 60 kids coming in this every year willing to do it.
Yep.
I think there are kids out there that want to be great.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say we, I mean me, my generation,
Yeah.
need to get out of their way and stop making it easy for them.
Yeah.
Stop babying them, right? Tell them, be great, So, I think that's where we are failing right now as a society. We've lowered expectations so much that kids are not striving to be great as much as they used to be.
I wrote down, I think there was a cultural shift at the coaching level with you and Luth that drove kids to want to be a part of something great. That's why kids are playing in it. And that's why you're getting 50, 60 kids.
Yeah, I think so.
It starts at the top, I think.
Yeah, I think that kids can see that,
Yeah.
Kids can feel that,
Mm-hmm.
They want to be part of something special.
Yeah.
It's nice. Don't get me wrong, winning and losing is great. Kids
Yeah.
love winning.
Yeah.
They love when they get a championship ring, right? But when I see my kids out, now they're, my wrestlers out in the bars and stuff.
Yeah.
They don't talk about the championship wins. They talk about, oh God, you used to, how hard they had to work and how, now I'm a fireman. And, when I had to do when I had to do the physical test for firefighter, it was half as hard as one practice. It was so easy for me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Or when, now I'm in the Army and boot camp and, everyone wanted to quit and I never gave up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It tells me that they learned something.
Yeah. I love that. And if you went to go work at a hospital, you would not have been able to be a coach at Foran High School.
No way. No chance.
So owning your time's important.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is you never say no. You're a big guy on saying yes to a lot of things.
Yeah.
You told me you were reading to a group of first graders. You don't have many surgeons doing that.
Yeah.
What's the mindset behind that?
Yeah, I don't know. Just a long time ago, I just said I will never say no. If someone asks me to do something, I'll never say no.
Yeah.
And again, it's just part of me being a local kid, wanting to see these kids and say, listen, I was in the same classroom as you,
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
You could be whatever you want to be right from here.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to private school. You don't have to be
Yeah.
rich. You don't have to have parents that are, put a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yep.
I did it. You can do it.
Yeah.
And again, I figure I got so many hours in a day. I got so many days in my life. I don't want to waste them, So if I can squeeze in a trip to the middle school to talk to kids, I'll do it. If I can, coach baseball team, I'll do it. If I, whatever. If I got to read to my grandson's class a Dr. Seuss book, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll make time. I'll just sleep less.
Yeah.
So I think, again, to me, these are not hard choices.
Yeah.
I just said, okay, if someone asked me to do something, I'll say yes.
Yeah.
And once I made that decision, it's easy, right? It's easy. So,
I love it. Doc, touching a lot of lives. This was fun.
yeah, it was good.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.